Do not look for approval except for the consciousness of doing your best. Andrew Carnegie. You must capture and keep the heart of the original and supremely able man before his brain can do its best. Andrew Carnegie. Immense power is acquired by assuring yourself in your secret reveries that you were born to control affairs. Andrew Carnegie. Mr. Morgan buys his partners, I grow my own. Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie was a self-made steel tycoon and one of the wealthiest businessmen of the 19th century. He later dedicated his life to philanthropic endeavors. After moving to the United States from Scotland, Andrew Carnegie worked a series of railroad jobs. By 1889, he owned Carnegie Steel Corporation, the largest of its kind in the world. In 1901 he sold his business and dedicated his time to expanding his philanthropic work, including the establishment of Carnegie Mellon University in 1904. Andrew Carnegie was born on November 25, 1835, in Dunfermline, Fife, Scotland. Although he had little formal education, Carnegie grew up in a family that believed in the importance of books and learning. The son of a handloom weaver, Carnegie grew up to become one of the wealthiest businessmen in America. At the age of 13, in 1848, Carnegie came to the United States with his family. They settled in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, and Carnegie went to work in a factory, earning $1.20 a week. The next year he found a job as a telegraph messenger. Hoping to advance his career, he moved up to a telegraph operator position in 1851. He then took a job at the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1853. He worked as the assistant and telegrapher to Thomas Scott, one of the railroad's top officials. Through this experience, he learned about the railroad industry and about business in general. 3 years later, Carnegie was promoted to superintendent. While working for the railroad, Carnegie began making investments. He made many wise choices and found that his investments, especially those in oil, brought in substantial returns. He left the railroad in 1865 to focus on his other business interests, including the Keystone Bridge Company. By the next decade, most of Carnegie's time was dedicated to the steel industry. His business, which became known as the Carnegie Steel Company, revolutionized steel production in the United States. Carnegie built plants around the country, using technology and methods that made manufacturing steel easier, faster and more productive. For every step of the process, he owned exactly what he needed: the raw materials, ships and railroads for transporting the goods, and even coal fields to fuel the steel furnaces. This start-to-finish strategy helped Carnegie become the dominant force in the industry and an exceedingly wealthy man. It also made him known as one of America's builders, as his business helped to fuel the economy and shape the nation into what it is today. By 1889, Carnegie Steel Corporation was the largest of its kind in the world. As I grow older, I pay less attention to what men say. I just watch what they do. Andrew Carnegie. No man will make a great leader who wants to do it all himself or get all the credit for doing it. There is little success where there is little laughter. The way to become rich is to put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. You cannot push anyone up a ladder unless he be willing to climb a little himself. Andrew Carnegie. Concentration is my motto: first honesty, then industry, then concentration. Do your duty and a little more and the future will take care of itself. And while the law of competition may be sometimes hard for the individual, it is best for the race, because it ensures the survival of the fittest in every department. Andrew Carnegie. The first man gets the oyster, the second man gets the shell. The morality of compromise sounds contradictory. Compromise is usually a sign of weakness, or an admission of defeat. Strong men don't compromise, it is said, and principles should never be compromised. Andrew Carnegie. The man who acquires the ability to take full possession of his own mind may take possession of anything else to which he is justly entitled. Andrew Carnegie. People who are unable to motivate themselves must be content with mediocrity, no matter how impressive their other talents. All honors wounds are self-inflicted. Every act you have ever performed since the day you were born was performed because you wanted something. Andrew Carnegie. Concentrate your energies, your thoughts and your capital. The wise man puts all his eggs in one basket and watches the basket. Andrew Carnegie. Whatever I engage in, I must push inordinately. Surplus wealth is a sacred trust which its possessor is bound to administer in his lifetime for the good of the community. Andrew Carnegie. There is no class so pitiably wretched as that which possesses money and nothing else. The average person puts only 25% of his energy and ability into his work. The world takes off its hat to those who put in more than 50% of their capacity, and stands on its head for those few and far between souls who devote 100%. Andrew Carnegie. No person will make a great business who wants to do it all himself or get all the credit. Aim for the highest. I resolved to stop accumulating and begin the infinitely more serious and difficult task of wise distribution. Andrew Carnegie. I would as soon leave my son a curse as the almighty dollar. Think of yourself as on the threshold of unparalleled success. A whole, clear, glorious life lies before you. Achieve. Achieve. Andrew Carnegie. The men who have succeeded are men who have chosen one line and stuck to it. He that cannot reason is a fool. He that will not is a bigot. He that dare not is a slave. I shall argue that strong men, conversely, know when to compromise and that all principles can be compromised to serve a greater principle. Andrew Carnegie. Some felt that the company's success came at the expense of its workers. The most notable case of this came in 1892. When the company tried to lower wages at a Carnegie steel plant in Homestead, Pennsylvania, the employees objected. They refused to work, starting what has been called the Homestead Strike of 1892. The conflict between the workers and local managers turned violent after the managers called in guards to break up the union. While Carnegie was away at the time of strike, many still held him accountable for his managers' actions. In 1901, Carnegie made a dramatic change in his life. He sold his business to the United States Steel Corporation, started by legendary financier J.P. Morgan. The sale earned him more than $200 million. At the age of 65, Carnegie decided to spend the rest of his days helping others. While he had begun his philanthropic work years earlier by building libraries and making donations, Carnegie expanded his efforts in the early 20th century. Carnegie, an avid reader for much of his life, donated approximately $5 million to the New York Public Library so that the library could open several branches in 1901. Devoted to learning, he established the Carnegie Institute of Technology in Pittsburgh, which is now known as Carnegie Mellon University in 1904. The next year, he created the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching in 1905. With his strong interest to peace, he formed the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in 1910. He made numerous other donations, and it is said that more than 2,800 libraries were opened with his support. Besides his business and charitable interests, Carnegie enjoyed traveling and meeting and entertaining leading figures in many fields. He was friends with Matthew Arnold, Mark Twain, William Gladstone, and Theodore Roosevelt. Carnegie also wrote several books and numerous articles. His 1889 article Wealth outlined his view that those with great wealth must be socially responsible and use their assets to help others. This was later published as the 1900 book The Gospel of Wealth. Death. Carnegie died on August 11, 1919, in Lenox, Massachusetts, at the age of 83.